What's happening? Today we are going to jump into how to create workflows within Digital Unicorn. And so if you are new to the workspace of workflows, then this is going to serve you very well because workflows can make your life a whole lot easier. They're used for a number of different reasons, and really it's about automation. It's about connecting with your customers or people that are interacting with your content in such a way that you don't have to be the one doing it all the time. And so, for example, somebody could go to your website, place an order for something, they automatically get put into your CRM as a lead. That lead is then contacted via text message to thank them for what they have just purchased. You might even send a follow up for an upsell for another product or service. Could be a reminder about that particular order. Um, Another example that we've used recently for registration for webinars. So somebody signs up for a webinar, they go through the process of doing that. Same thing, they get put into your contact list in your CRM. Then that contact gets a text message out just thanking them for joining and registering for it. They might get a follow up email from it a day later, a couple days later, they might get a reminder text. You can go on and on and on about how many different ways that you can create touch points with your client. And so that's just a small fraction of what you can do. I'm going to give you a visual here of how this workflow actually operates. Um, and so you can see it kind of in real time, what actually is happening here. And so let's walk through this together. Okay, so as you can see in the screen, I have a workflow. Making my screen a little bigger here for you. And currently I got a sales booking workflow. This is just a template in here, but I'm going to show you what this kind of looks like. Okay, so I got several of them in here that are just in draft mode. And you can see it says this is an initial nurture when new lead fills out opt-in form. So that's kind of a cool option. So if you got an opt-in form on a website, maybe it's a pop-up that has the opt-in, somebody fills that out, and then that's the trigger. And that's the thing with all these workflows, okay? They all basically start with a trigger, and you'll see that up top here, okay? And also, tip number 2, highly recommend you name your workflows. Keep them organized. You can even put them in folders, etc., to keep them organized. Definitely a good option for you. But as mentioned, you always want to have a trigger in place here. You have to have a trigger in order for this to work. And this is basically telling it, okay, what has to happen? What action takes place in order for this thing to start working? And in this example, there's a form that's submitted. As you can see, the form gets submitted. It's an opt-in form submitted. The form is, and the name of that form is opt-in claim. Okay, so that's just a generic one that is created here, and I'll go back and show you that so you can see where this exists here. So if you go to the forms, you'll see opt-in claim. Okay, so this is the actual name of the form that's created, and this is just a sample one. Somebody has fields that they can put in their info, etc. Okay, so the way that automation is set up, that workflow, is that when somebody goes to that form and they opt into the form, it's opt-in form. And if you had more, you'd have more in the drop down here, right? But once that takes place, that triggers this event. And so you would save that trigger. What does it do? Well, the next step here, they have it set up to add it to a sales pipeline. Okay. And it puts it into this stage, into the new lead stage. So you'd have to go set up your pipeline the way that you want it done, and you can assign a value to it, etc. As you can see here, you can actually put a dollar amount to it. But this particular step tells you that it's going to put them into a lead stage, and then they're going to get an email. So the next step is they're going to get an email, and it's a custom email that they get. And you can see it's very generic info in here. This is not what they're going to necessarily get, but you could put whatever you needed to in here. If you had a template for an email, you could also put that there. Okay. Then there's a delay, 5-minute delay, and they get a text message. So the text message then opts them into booking for a calendar schedule. Okay. And there's a custom value that's put in here for the appointment booking for that particular calendar. Okay. Then there's another 3-minute pause. And the whole purpose behind these pauses, by the way, is to um, basically make it appear more human, right, than robotic and everything going back to back to back. So there's a 3-minute wait. And then there's another email. There's another 3 minutes. But as you can see, there's some parameters on this one where it only does it during business hours. Okay, so you can do stuff like that too. And then there's a trigger for an automatic call. Okay. As you can see, it tells you if this contact has been assigned to a user, the event will call the user and play the whisper message. And if it's unassigned, this event will call the number listed in settings, company tab, etc. Play the whisper message. If the person answers the call, presses any key during the call, we'll dial that contact, and if they answer, we'll bridge the call. Okay. So kind of a cool option. Basically, it's saying that the automation set up in such a way where if this contact is assigned to a particular person, it will call that person and then it will basically connect them to the person that it's assigned to. So if I'm the person assigned to that contact, they would get a call. There's a whisper message that tells them, hey, this is so and so with so and so, calling you back. We would like to connect with you here. They push a button, it automatically rings on my side. I pick up the phone and now we're bridged. Okay. And that's what that's for. Next step here is wait a day. Then they email them another follow up, wait a day, another text, wait a day, another text, wait a day, final follow up. So you can get as elaborate with these as you want. This is a pretty kind of sequential workflow, but you can get as complicated as you need to in these. And I've seen some pretty elaborate ones that you can get into. But if you're just starting out and you need something pretty basic, a good place to start is also in this section. You go to create workflow and select a recipe. And you might be able to find one here that really fits your particular scenario. Okay. It might be an email sequence that you want when a contact is added to your CRM. They do something, they opt in, they purchase something, and they enter your CRM now and you trigger an email sequence. Okay. So that's one way you can start this thing. And the other thing I'll tell you too about this is that there's, even if these don't necessarily fit your exact scenario, the sequence in which they're done, you could just kind of reorder things and do them to your own liking. Okay, so for example, um, let's say I want to use, let's just see, recipe, GMB, notify users, and autoresponder to Google messaging channels. Okay, so that's pretty generic too, but let's just say this one right here. I'm just going to select appointment confirmation and reminder. Okay, so it's automatically going to put in some steps for me here. And these steps here, we got a trigger where an appointment was booked or confirmed, right? So there's an appointment that's confirmed. That's the actual trigger. And it sends them an email. Okay. Waits 24 hours, sends them another email, etc. Okay. These are just emails. And then you got a text message at the end of this thing. But let's say in the midst of this, the contact's already going to be put into our CRM because of a trigger, but maybe you want something else in here. You hit this plus icon and you're going to add another action here. There's all kinds of stuff you can do here. Okay. You can search for something. These are third-party stuff, third-party apps, etc. But you can search for this and see if one of these fits what you're looking to do. Right. There's all kinds of things you could do. It could be an Instagram DM if you had captured their information, etc. in that. Could be conversation AI. It could be a sequence that you utilize your AI to be able to respond to people. It could be, and these are kind of cool. This is the part where I was telling you about. It gets really elaborate with these other steps you can do with if-else statements. There's all kinds of things you can explore and play with here. If you're familiar and used to using ChatGPT, there's all kinds of things you can do within that as well. But maybe we're going to send them, they booked an appointment, but then maybe it's an upsell to a course or something like that. So let's just say we're going to add them to, a course. Okay. And we want to offer them, I don't have a course in here, but we might want to give them access to a particular course right after they trigger that appointment and they get notified of that. Okay. So that's an example of it. Or if we have a community built, let's say, and we want to add them to that grant community group leaderboard points. So if you have a community in place and this is a way to gamify it, right? You could grant them community points on that. Okay. And for this here, this is granting somebody access to a specific group. I don't have one in this demo account to show you, but it would populate right here. So that's an example of how you can just modify an existing workflow to suit your needs. Okay. And then the last thing I'll tell you are a couple things here. The settings tab up here, you want to pay attention to this because this could be important here. You know, you can place time zones, you can do specific windows for this workflow, etc. But this part, the allow reentry or multiple opportunities, your case may be a little bit different than everybody's, but you want to determine whether or not somebody can re-enter a workflow. So if they've done it once, can they do it again? Well, that kind of depends on the situation. Okay. If you don't want people to have to be able to access, a course, for example, more than once, then you might not allow that to happen. But I typically allow that to happen because people mess up, they goof up when they're logging into something, etc. So I go ahead and typically allow that. Here's kind of a history of that particular workflow um, that you can see execution logs. And then last, you want to make sure you turn this thing on. Okay. So it's in draft mode by default, but you want to go ahead and publish it. But before you do that, if you want to test it out, you can actually click on this. Okay. You can send yourself a message or email to test that workflow or within a particular step of the workflow. So for example, let's say this step right here, I want to make sure I'm testing this part out. You can go down, scroll down, put your number in there, send a test, and it will send you exactly what a customer would typically see from there. Okay. And that's pretty much it. That's the logistics behind it. Make sure you publish it, save it, and you're good to go. Here on the bottom here, you do have workflow AI. So if you're already on a package paying for workflow AI or not, and you just wanted to, pay by the execution, it's super cheap, pennies on the dollar for it. And this can actually help you, do what you're looking for. You can tell it what you want. The AI will walk you through it with that particular automation. It's a pretty cool feature. Okay. Let's close that out. All right. So it'll suggest some things based on what you have in place already here, or you can ask it some questions on what you want it to do. All right. And that is the logistics of how you create workflows. All right. We'll circle back with you and we will catch you on the next one.